How are we doing, everybody? Welcome back to the Sean Atwood channel. I'm Ron Swanson. I'm here with the one and only Beverli Rhodes, and we're going to delve into a new weekly show. We're going to delve into some of the dark energies that are afoot in the world, cover some of the individuals that Beverli's spoken about before, and look at how we can kind of bolster, right, for those of you who are on your journey, bolster what we already know to protect us from their clutches. And for those of you who don't know, time to get educated on that. But before we get into all that, Beverli Rhodes, how are you? Looking wonderful. How have you been keeping, and what's been going on? How are you?
I'm well, thank you very much. Got a bit of a sniffle today because there's lots and lots of pollen flying around. It's spring. Oh my goodness, spring has finally arrived. Yay.
Yeah.
So apologies for that in advance. And yes, we're all going well. And how are you doing? You've got lots of shows. Right. You look like you're doing really well.
Doing all right. Doing all right. We're getting there. We're getting there, as we do in this world. But Bev, tonight we're going to start off. We're going to kind of talk about the dark forces, right? There's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot of people that are talking about, Trump. We've got Israel. We've got Iran. We've got all of this craziness. We had Trump saying that he was going to annihilate an entire island with a nuke the other day. Things are getting pretty heated, right? What is your sort of interpretation? What is it that you are picking up on? Is it a grand plan playing out? Are we about to see an event? Because I feel like we're building up to a cataclysmic event, like an event of major loss of life, or maybe something where an island, like a population, is wiped out, and we're looking at ourselves as a human race and asking ourselves, can we let this happen again? Right? And then we're going to usher in the AI overlords. This is the weird feeling that I have, right? So what's your feeling with what's going on in the world right now? And what's your take on the reasons behind it, if you will? Not even so much the reason, but the greater intent behind it.
Yeah. Well, those are all good points to bring up. The first aspect is that I managed to pick up the other day. I was having a look at the space center, and those that run across, we can see them sometimes going across the sky. But what was very interesting is that when I had a look at that area, there was a lot of interference happening. And also there was a lot of other witnesses in the sky itself. So I picked up must have been maybe 200-300 craft that were all at a very high altitude. So it does tell me that other races and beings that have been coming here, I mean, since before the Egyptians, before those particular times, they are all watching, because really off-worlders and the Star Brothers and sisters, they cannot afford for us to cause any long-term damage to Earth School, or this particular, as we seem to be calling it lately, the prison planet. So they cannot afford for things to get really out of hand. So that's quite good, in as much as no matter what is happening here, those that have been watching over Earth and our progress as a species and as beings, if something gets a little bit too heavy, they are going to send emissaries, and they are going to send individuals in human form to come and speak to those that are necessary to make sure that whatever has been planned, that these nonsenses that certain different tribes and others from different races, like either the Anunnaki or the Draco, or different types of beings that are aligned to the Draco, that have caused, if you like, the harvesting of loosh and harvesting of energy through fear, because that's the only reason why this is happening right now, is to harvest the energy that is being emitted from humans. And they've got to find a way to create fear, and they've got to find a way to create confusion and upset. And all that we're seeing right now is that very incident that they know full well, the Draco and other reptilians, they know full well that that's going to cause a lot of distress amongst those that haven't fully awakened, because they won't be aware that we've got a safety net, because we do. And that loosh will be extremely easy to harvest, because they take it back to their various ships and also to their planet, and they use that to power not just their ships, but they use it to power their planet too. So we must try not to fall into the fear mongering, because that's exactly what they want.
I hear you. Now, it's interesting that you talk about. I mean, would you say this was about a week ago that you were tapping into?
Yeah, it was a week. Yeah.
Well, I mean, listen, we had astronauts leave the planet for the first time, and I mean, we're like the first time in 50 years. Okay, so are we sending people up there to have a chit chat? I mean, that's what is kind of lining up with, like, because the craft's allegedly left and it's gone behind the moon. We lost communication. Like, we don't tend to just nip up there for no reason. You know, I'm not being funny. Big shout out to America, but you guys haven't exactly got the track record for like going into somewhere and not just starting to dig, okay, or looking about for something. So why we've never been back? And again, this is if I'm putting on my, I believe that the universe exists and all the planets are there as we've been told hat, okay? Because I've never been. I don't know, okay? And even if you have been off-world, most people who've gone off-world have gone off-world through astral projection and through remote viewing. That's a very different journey than nipping on a spacecraft and heading up into space, if you see what I mean.
Well,
so,
yeah, it is very different. I personally, I prefer going in your bodily form, but human bodily forms are not really designed for any long period of time in outer space, because we end up with a lot of muscle wastage. And we end up with a lot of issues when we come back, when we return back to Earth. It's a lot. I've only done that 3 times in my entire life, so it's not that many.
NASA, not a space agency, right? I'm sorry, that's brilliant. Okay, I don't know. I'm sure you. I don't know if you came up with that, but I'm telling you, that is gold right there. So again, the moon. I don't know where I'm at with all of this, right? I think it's more likely that it's dimensions and we're traveling through things than we made a spaceship and flew to the moon. Did we? Did we do that? Because I've got a lot of questions, and personally, I think when it comes to the dark forces, like you said, Bev, the fear factor, and not only from energy point of view, right? Let's break this down for the non-believers. Let's give them some science, right? You are more malleable, okay? Whether that is through being coerced or controlled, they're the same thing. When you're living in fear and you're isolated, you are vastly more vulnerable and open to solution and return to normality, okay? And people are willing to give up anything for that. Believe me, I've seen it play out when the London bombings took place, and people were like, "We need to give up our liberties for freedom." What?
Absolutely, yeah.
What? How about those are the same thing? Like Google something. But this state of fear and this lowering of frequency seems to be prolific, Bev. And we can all argue for whatever reason we want. Oh, it's harvesting this. It's used for that. Whatever you want to apply there, we all can acknowledge that there seems to be something at the top of the table where fear and control is what they want. Energy or malleable people to control. Neither of those options are good. Okay, neither of those are a good ending. And when a lot of people hear about the prospects of otherworldly life, right? There's still people that are still debating when it'll ever happen. We know it's happened and been happening for years, okay?
Yeah.
And when people try and imagine that the elites of the world, the people that have been the elites of the world for centuries, not having this knowledge, and we're going to go on later on, we're going to be discussing really about how people have lost their connection with energy, with things that were the norm hundreds of years ago that seem to have been cast at the wayside for multitude of reasons. Genocide being one, right? If you just kill everyone that knows stuff, okay, there's a chance their knowledge is going to die out.
Yeah, a chance they're not going to know it because it doesn't get. Well, this is
Chances
it.
are.
Yeah, those days, they didn't have those days where they didn't have writing and weren't writing things down.
Mm,
It was always the oral tradition that was passed around to the little ones in stories around the fire. And if you look at the Mayans, the Aztecs, and all these amazing individuals, as well as the American First Nation peoples, and there's a lot of Indian tribal areas that they used to send and provide all the stories, and the elders would always be the ones that would be sitting around the fire and telling the stories. And they knew about the Star brothers and sisters. They
mhm,
knew about the Bigfoot or Yeti or the Alawan, whatever you choose to call them in whatever country or whatever area of various countries. And the natives from South Africa and the different African tribes, they've also done exactly the same thing. A lot of their traditions and their beliefs are also passed down in the Burma, which is around a fire. And as I've lived in South Africa for a long time, they had the same situation where they would be telling the youngsters, this is what we've seen, this is what we believe, this is
mhm,
where we've got, they talk about the tokolosh, they talk about all these different types of beings that they've all seen, and this gets passed down from tradition right through to all the youngsters. And even today, some of the older generation, they still remember these amazing tales. And it is very obvious that we're in an editing society now where some of the elders feel that it's not good to be talking about what was before. And I know before I left South Africa,
mhm.
I had a big farm in South Africa. I was farming with horses and various things. And a lot of my staff had said to me, the youngsters today, they don't want to stay on the farm. They don't want to learn the traditions. They don't want to learn about what we had seen, like the Mandindani. And Mandindani in Africa were from the stars. They could walk on water. They saw them walking on water. And these are traditions and stories that were passed down through the ages. And very few of them exist in book form. So it's really down to the elders of each tribe, both in Africa and across the Americas and different tribes of Europe, even Russia, India, particularly China, Japan, and even as far away as South Korea. They have very specific traditions that
Mhm.
do need to be passed down orally or at least written down and captured somewhere, because this is happening around us.
Yeah, and again, we're going to dig into this a little later with when we look at some of your footage of you going and communicating with some rather incredible creatures. And before we do that, though, Bev, the
Mm,
fear again, right, can be used to outrage and rally people, right?
yes.
Well, we've seen this with Trump assassination. We've seen it with the unaliving of Charlie Kirk, and how the world shifted. There was a strange energy that very much differs between the two, right?
Mm,
And I seen a massive shift after what happened to Charlie Kirk, right? There was
mm,
people
mm,
who felt the need to try and do better personally in their lives, and it was an interesting wave to see crash over the world. And with Trump, it kind of formed a catalyst around him that elevated him above everyone. It really did. I feel like it kind of snowballed, not literally, but in his mind. And do you think that the symbol of the invincible Trump, right, where the assassination attempt never worked, do you think that he is trying to really lean into that factor with the war, with regards to everyone must obey, because this has been his stance with the South American country, with Greenland, and now with Iran? It's very much he's laying it down and he's following through. Do you think that his ego has been affected by this, with regards to him not being taken out, and we're seeing a form of Trump that may have never have occurred if it wasn't for this event? If we're going to assume this event was a naturally occurring thing and wasn't set up within his own administration, do events like this, are they often used to perpetuate the evil deeds because there's this sympathetic nature because of this event built up in the public, if that makes sense.
I think that particularly the off-world Draco reptilians, the Nagas and others, they do, and they have had a lot of control over this planet, but also a couple of other planets, if I remember. So I think that their own sort of hidden agenda that has been playing out, and there are some sort of rogue events that do happen occasionally, which does cause a lot of concern, but it just makes them more angry, because I think the reptilians in their deep underground bases, they were removed off the planet some time ago,
Right.
and there's just a few that are left. So they are definitely fighting for control here. Those that are left are dwindling, so they've got to try to stamp their authority somehow. And I think that some of the events that we see happening now across the world, and particularly the Charlie situation,
Yeah.
I think that was a rogue event, and that was something to do with specific off-worlders that tried to make a situation and also create it in such a way that there was a warning sent. So it was almost like, they used to say, oh, they're going to, a warning shot across the bow.
Yeah.
That was the warning shot across the bow. They definitely want to create some sort of a warlike environment.
Yeah, I think the comment here, Trump is playing a messiah role, psyop the population. And I'll be honest, it feels a little bit like that. And I was saying to people, when people are asking me my opinions on this, and it's either savior of the world or destroyer of the world, and no middle ground, right? And honestly, when has it ever worked out that anyone's tried to do anything for the good of this world? Okay, in a position like this. So we have to sway to the side that the data leans on, right? Which is that we're all heading to be screwed over by this man. Okay, that's the feeling I have. Okay, whether it's the files, whether it's this war, whether it's the long slew of accusations and out of court settlements that have hit Trump's life, I see him as the perfect example of somebody who could rise to power and be so lost in his own ego to make a decision like to drop a nuclear bomb to change the face of this earth. And I think that plays into the grand plan of all of this, because everyone, it's because I'm not in America and I'm not led by Trump. I mean, we've got crazy Starmer here. I'm not, trust me.
Starmer's doing all sorts of weird and wonderful things.
But Trump seems to be standing up in this messiah complex. And I think that is really, you nailed it. Whoever, I forget who left that comment, but it feels like he's playing into this, I am the savior of the world. And the more people buy into that mindset, the more we're going to buy what his sales pitch is next. And I'm concerned about what comes after this, because if there's no countries, right, and if it's just a one world government, how can there be any more wars, right? If we're governed by an AI overlord that's making decisions for us because humanity depends on taking out human error from our decision making, when we're looking at us as a global united planet, I think this is the sales pitches we're going to be hit with, because that's what we're used to. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be for the greater good, but it's greater control. And where are you at, Bev, with the whole they want a united Earth, one world plan?
Yeah, I don't believe that the one world plan, whatever it might be, in whatever form it might be, would succeed. Mainly because the entities and the beings that have been coming to Earth for centuries and centuries, that does not fall in line with where they're at as far as Earth school goes. We are sovereign beings. We have light within us. We are one of the few races that have been given the right to free choice, to free will. And if that was going to come about, then we would not have our free will. We would not be awakening to the level that we are awakening now, because our free will and being sovereign beings and sovereign souls that can make our own decisions and work with light, we would not be able to do any of that if we suddenly became a slave race of puppets. So I don't think that this any plan that those darkened beings have, I don't believe it's going to succeed, because we have so many beings that are off-world, that are filled with light, that have always wanted us to succeed as a human race. And we were given almost the keys to our soul, because we have free will, because we can make our own decisions. And I think that goes against everything that the Creator made for us, and everything that we believe within ourselves. So I don't think that is going to be successful. I do believe that if anything like that started to come about, there would be those that are very carefully watching what we're doing here on Earth, and they would step in. It wouldn't become obvious, that they would be able to step in and put everything back on track.
So here's my issue with the off-worlders. I've explained this to Danny Henderson, and I've explained it to you. I'm pretty sure I explained it to you a couple of years ago. And the whole blind faith concept for me is redundant. And there is if there was a reason for off-worlders not stepping in by now, it must be some sort of galactic code thing, right? Where a planet can't be, they've got to reach a certain state of evolution and technology before people can intervene, right?
Yeah.
But they're not stupid. If they're witnessing a planet being voluntarily held back from their own progression through dark forces intervening, where are we meant to be able to believe that our best intentions are being considered from off-worlders? Because I struggle with it, because when the elephant looks at the ant, he doesn't consider the life of the ant, right?
No,
and if we're talking about, races that have technologically advanced to a point where they're just nipping in their spaceship and coming over here, which I fully believe, how can they even relate to our level of evolution and our level of life? Or is it much deeper and more based around our energies and souls than our physical matter, if that makes sense?
I think it's not so much about the physical matter. It's more about where we are learning, and how far what we have achieved, each of us separately have achieved in our own level of understanding and our own development of the awakening. How awake have we been? And I think that is what I'm seeing. A lot of individuals that I'm seeing now, they have realized that there is a totally different energy out there. They're becoming more connected to the earth. So they're standing outside on the earth itself, on the grass, or they're walking more barefoot, or they're wearing these barefoot type sandals, so they can connect and they can be centered with the earth. There needs to be, from what I understand, there needs to be a minimum of, I think it is between 52 and 56% of the Earth's population that are awakened. So in other words, those that are out there needs to be at least half of the Earth that understands about awakening, that understands about our spirituality, understands what we need to be doing, to not just to protect ourselves, but also to make sure that every soul counts, and that every soul is here to learn. We have our soul contracts, and we need to finish them as quickly as we can, so we can move on to the next soul contract. So we are in a position where half of the world at the moment, I think the last time I checked, it was about 51% of the world population knows and understands that there is a greater good. There is a way in which we, as sovereign souls, can progress and we can move forward, as long as we edit and we look at what it is that we're doing on a day-to-day basis. So whatever we're feeding our energy with and feeding our energy into the larger energy grid, how can we make sure that we matter, and how can we then give back that energy that's needed? If we can get to that 52 to 56% of the Earth's population being awakened, then it will be a safe environment, because those that are trying very desperately to get us back to the days of the control and fear and all those good things that used to happen that are not happening right now. People are awake. They are looking at things differently. They're wanting those individuals, though, that try to control us. They're trying to get us back into the bottle, like put the genie back in the bottle. But that cannot happen because there are too many individuals now that are starting to ask questions and thinking, hang on a minute, this doesn't sound quite right. I can't buy into this. This is not right. And they're exactly what you said, the elephant and the ant. The ant now is allowing the elephant to understand that there is a whole hive behind the ant. And this is kind of where we're at right now, is this 50% of the earth that is awakened. We just need that small percentage to wake up so that we can all move forward and change the way that we are living our lives right now.
Yeah, see, the problem I have, right, is get a bit more specific, off-worlders. Like, we don't need this 50 to 56%. How about you get real specific, right? Lay some stuff out so that we know what's happening. Because otherwise, what are you hiding? And for me, I'm fully on board, right, with defeating the dark forces, getting them off, getting the evil done with, right? But I'm not so willing to just welcome in another unknown factor. Okay. And I'm struggling with why I have to even contemplate off-worlders. Okay. If my energy is so important and my souls are so important, okay, they really have to start upping their game with their direct honesty and what is going on here, because until then it's just rinse and repeat. Okay, it's giving us this false illusion that we are part of something bigger, but we're not worthy of knowing what that is, right? And I struggle with it. And I think our planet, when we look at how we're told the other planets are, like, some of the planets rain lava. Like, who wants to live there? I don't. Okay, I certainly don't. Our planet is very pretty when you look at our planet.
It is very pretty.
And it really, that bothers me. Okay, like, why is it so pretty, babe? Why is it so distracting? Why is our planet the only planet that's got shit on it that stops you looking up at the stars and going, I need to get the hell off of here? Okay, so if we believe what all other planets look like, and we kind of go on the ratio of how many planets we have that are like ours, which is none but ours, we have to go that planets creating life is rare just based off of our own solar system, right? Life as we know it. So I really, if the off-worlders are listening, and I know you are. When I went on Danny's show and spoke about this, they were above the house for 2 days. And that's not good enough, mate. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. No one cares about your twinkling lights in the sky. Like, we were offered UFO disclosure by Trump because of PDF files to distract us, and we went, nah. Okay, we need something more. It has to happen. Like, give us the cold fusion. Come and cure disease. Okay, because if you're holding that back because the dudes down here who are apparently in charge aren't allowing us to get to the point we need to be for that, then you are part of the problem. You are allowing this cycle to happen. It's like watching the groomer grooming the kids, right? And you're letting it happen. This isn't Beverli Rhodes's opinions, by the way. I'm just speaking for myself here. This is me speaking for myself. Y'all need to up your game or shut up. Because
I think they will up their game, from some of the plans that I'm aware of, and others that are also in touch with off-worlders. There is a plan. I think that, when you look at it, there are some areas where they can't interfere too much because it's not free will again. So they will. And when you look at, there are individuals now that I've seen throughout the world, and there's quite a few that are able to, call the ships, that are able to call off-worlders and get them to appear at will, which I think is a big step forward.
That's awesome, right? I am not doubting them. I'm not doubting the reality of it all. Believe me, I know they're there. It's what are you doing? Like you see the stage. I mean, are we right on? Maybe the frustration and the level where we're at are equal, and maybe we're just about to topple over into that age of awakening, and it's all going to come to fruition. I'll be like, you just made it. You just made it before the rage boiled over, because it's. I understand as well in the grand scheme of the entirety of space. Okay, what we consider as horrors taking place on this planet are a tiny, tiny little thing taking place in a massive space. So we have to factor in perception on global atrocities, okay, in the grand scheme of the universe. I'm not saying these things aren't important. I'm just trying to understand why no one's bothered to stop any of it. Okay, fair enough if it's every PDF file, but step in when fricking you see when Epstein start buying islands, right? You might want to start sucking them up in the light into the ship, bro. Do you know what I mean? Like that. Those are the things that frustrate me. Like, sure, we're always going to have bad people, right?
Yeah,
but when the evil people become supreme overlords of evil, like, can we have something like send a meteor down, like drop something out the ship, go low tech, use a piano, just fucking flatten them. But that's what frustrates me. And again, I know what you're about to say. This is free will, right? We can't intervene, right? We can't intervene. Well, I'm sorry. I think we might need to just. Can we get a petition to change the rules so that we need the intervention? And when do you think, right, the world's going to be ready for this? And again, I mean, on a serious note, because we all sit here and be like, oh, aliens come down now. If that happened, a lot of you would literally like lose the contents of your bowels. Like a lot of us would, right? So the reality of it and the want for it are two different things, Bev, right?
Yeah,
and
true.
People like yourself know better than us the grand scheme, because I'm sure there's been other planets where they've went, well, shall we just go down now? Should we just go down now? And they've landed and everyone's freaked out and like it's just not been the right time, right? And I'm sure I'm not smart enough to understand the grandeur of all that. So what is your interpretation of not only our place in their plan, right? But I mean, maybe you've already answered it with the 50% becoming awoken, but do you think that there's another event they're waiting on for full disclosure?
I think there is going to be some sort of mass event, and some individuals are saying it'd be some sort of false flag where we have a level of digital AI or something similar that shows, a huge craft in the sky or something like that, which we're going to have to be careful what we believe is real and what isn't real, because I think that is coming. There's going to be something that's going to appear to be real but then might not be. So that's on its way. But I think as far as the disclosure goes, we've got elimination of a lot of the dark individuals and those that are not really doing much for the human race. That is happening this year. And then we have from next year for 3 years, according to some of the timelines that I've seen over the last sort of 4 or 5 years, the timeline does show that though from 2027 through to 2030, we have a lot of significant events, if you like, that are surrounded with and are part of off-worlders. So where we're just seeing them arrive in craft, or we're seeing orbs, or we're seeing unusual events in the sky, this is what they're calling the softening, where they're softening, getting ready for the quickening, which will be next year and the year after. That is where we have a lot more individuals that have direct contact or are able to receive the downloads, because they do send out a frequency, and it's for those that are at a point where they can hear this buzzing sound or they can hear a sound in their ears, and then suddenly they have, boom, into the back of their minds, they have all sorts of information around where we're at, what we're doing, and how we're advancing. And that is how the downloads are perceived and get shown. So this is going to ramp up sort of from about the end of the fifth month onwards. We're going to see a lot more people are going to be hearing things, seeing things, and things will be appearing in the sky because they have to very slowly allow the Earth's population to become used to seeing crafts in the sky, seeing the orbs, which is the precursor to them arriving, which is those types of orbs that will go out, collect information, see what the land looks like, see what the areas look like, and understand specific individuals. So we've got all of that happening this year, and the removal of darker entities. So the truth will start trickling out. It's slow, but it will be trickling carefully so that it's managed. And then we're able to accept and understand the information that will be coming out to us. So these dark individuals that have been doing all sorts of things wrong, like for instance, specific individuals that have been filtering out, over 50 million pounds worth in the royal stash by putting forward all sorts of fake jobs and getting paid for it with the seal on top of those fake jobs. So the person in the royal family whose fake seal has been on those documents is going to be ousted. We are going to realize what we've been believing all along with various royal families around the world. That is going to become obvious. So it's going to be different categories of individuals over the next 2 or 3 years that we're going to see and think, oh my goodness me, that really happened. Shoo, that's pretty hectic. So it's going to be disclosure, but disclosure not in the way that we thought it would be. So they're not going to just, land on the lawn. They're going to be, behind a lot of information and data that's going to become obvious. And we're seeing a lot of that starting already now.
Do you think, like, I got to circle back to this, well, bring to the table this Spielberg movie that's coming out, right? The Disclosure Date, right? Now, I think everyone thinks it's going to be about aliens. I think it's going to be about us being softened for the capabilities of our conscious being downloaded, and for the unveiling of the MK Ultra style moving of a conscience, controlling of a conscience, being able to tap into a conscience, and it having F all to do with psychic things. It's all to do with tech and manipulation and quantum freaking this and that. Because you've seen the trailer, right? You've seen the trailer where the guy sat in the chair and his pupils dilate and he seems to be controlling somebody in a world that isn't real, right? And I think they're wanting to sales pitch it off of the alien stuff because that's what everyone kind of thinks it's going to be, right? But if we're going to be seeing how a government official can tap into the brain of a weather girl and make her do clicking sounds like an off-worlder to terrify people into an invasion, how are we then to really understand anything when the off-worlders come down? Or, Miss Beverli Rhodes, are we being preconditioned to understand the concept of communication through our minds? Or if we go to visit the off-worlders, we are not physically going, we are going through a new concept of existence and trying to get our head around a solid inner spirit as opposed to this wispy ghost factor that a lot of people believe. Do you think that that's going to come before the crafts, our understanding of when these people start talking, you're just going to hear a voice in your head?
I think that there's a couple of things that are going to be coming out in the movie. One of the biggest messages that I think is that there is a universal language, and apart from it being mathematics, there is another frequency level of voice as well as language that is either called a star language or a light language. And the light language has been here for centuries and centuries. Everyone has the ability to remember your light language. And this is, I think, what we will be seeing in the movie is we will be seeing that level of light language or star language that comes out. And that's where you have the weather person that is speaking in clicks and all sorts of particular, also harmonics and singing and all those types. The light language has been programmed within us from day one, from the time that we were created. we have the ability to remember the star language or the light language. The reason for that is that it is a pure way of frequency communication. It is pure light. And that light is the communication that the demonic entities or the dark entities like Draco, reptilians, and others cannot understand. So that's part and parcel of that overall message. The dilation of the pupils, I will say those individuals that I know that practice now, even now, they practice light language. Their pupils do dilate and the color of their eyes does change. It doesn't become blue, but there's some that becomes almost like a golden color or an amber color. And those individuals that I've seen in sending out light language to assist others or light healing with the use of light language, the color of their eyes does change and the pupils do dilate. So I'm not quite sure what they're going to be trying to sell us, but certainly those around the world that practice light language and have remembered, because it is a memory, remembered and reactivated what we all have in our DNA. That light language now becomes a precursor to being able to understand the star brothers and sisters.
So do you think they're going to create a wave of fear over how this language sounds? Because it sounds real creepy in this movie. It sounds like how I would imagine a bunch of really terrifying insect people would sound. Do you think they're going to create hysteria and panic around that tone and falsify it as something that's like you should fear rather than embrace?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what they're going to do. I think they're going to try to sell it as possession or as manipulation by whatever beings. They're going to come out with some sort of nonsense to say, well, you can't do this. This is bad. And if you hear this, block your ears because, it's something that is evil, that it's manipulation. People want to control you. And that is not the case. All of the individuals I've worked with around the world that are speaking light language, they do not use it negatively. I do not know one practitioner who is working with light language and individuals, not one is using it for their own personal gain, and they're definitely not using it in a bad way. They're doing so in a way in which individuals can feel healed, can feel better about themselves, and actually sharing that powerful energy of allowing you as the individual to be all that you can be by remembering what your roots were, and by remembering that actually you're all part of Creator and you're just a little piece of the light that is within Creator. And if you can do that and remember your light language, once you become proficient in allowing that to move through you and then come out of your mouth, it is amazing to see the changes that happen within individuals. And I've been around a lot of individuals that are growing, that have just started with their light language, and you can see it, how they feel about it and that energy that comes out of them. And it's amazing to watch how they grow and how they become far better. They become better people within themselves because they change. And once you start remembering light language and you allow that to flow from you, there is nothing that you can't do in life. So I think that part of this overall message from this movie is going to be, they've realized that light language is back. In the old days, it used to be called speaking in tongues. You used to see it a lot within specific religions, that people would be able to speak in tongues and they would be activated in an evangelistic format. But this is now exactly where those individuals that created the movie, they want to say, this is negative, it's against this, we can't be doing this, it's not something that should be happening. But it is, because it's the original language. It's the language of the soul, light language and star language. And if we go back to different, if we look at the Book of Enoch, particularly the Book of Enoch, tells us a lot. Tells us about mermaids, tells us about star beings, tells us about, all the different languages that we can speak from our soul. Tells us lots of things that most people don't really bother having a look at because it's in the Book of Enoch. But it is already in the Book of Enoch. All these aspects are dealt with. We just need to start looking at it and discern what resonates with us or resonates with our soul. Then we can decide. Well, then we'll be able to see what is the agenda that individuals through different movies and popular broadcasts, what are they trying to push? And then we can start questioning, actually, is this meant for me or not?
I'm with you. You see, when we talk about light language, love language, like light languages, and this focus on nothing but pure light energy, right? I feel like we're looking at the opposite end of the spectrum. We've got evildoers who are gorging themselves on the dark. We've got light users who are gorging themselves on the light. And when you're in a state of perpetual self indulgence, you're going to feel good, right? You're going to feel good about the things you're doing. Even the lunatic killer, when he's on his 12th body, he's feeling probably pretty good about the things he's doing, right?
Yeah,
The
sure.
opposite end of the spectrum is going to be that. Do we not run the risk of a falsification of what it makes us a planet? Our planet, by its very nature, is bad and good, and the consistent focus on one or the other, I think, is where people miss the balance of this world, right? And greed, someone just said it in the side there, Kelly, greed, whether it's, people don't often talk about the greed that's involved in positive things, right? And overindulgence into anything. We don't really talk about if it's a positive thing you're overindulging in. But if your life is so off balance, that is not what I believe our planet resonates. I mean, it's a brutal planet. Look at nature. Nature's mental, Bev. You know what I'm saying? It's mental. Like, I've seen one bird species just land in a nest and just start smashing its beak at baby birds, and that. It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? So I ask myself, if all life on this planet is being created, why are we the oddity, Bev? Why are we the one that have to portray this imbalance when the world around us so clearly demonstrates there has to be a relationship between good and bad? Now, I'm not talking about evil. Evil doesn't exist in nature. Evil is the manifestation of the act of man. Evil has no place. Don't get it twisted. But where do you believe we need to be in order to fully grasp our world? Because if we were to live in harmony with nature, most of you light users would be mortified at what is coming. Okay. The stag certainly could live without the wolf, but without one or the other, it doesn't work. And when we try and follow a good path, it tends to be that we walk 10 paces in the light and then fall off the path and do something, whether it's you're trying to give up alcohol, whether you're trying to give up this or trying to give up that. We fall off the wagon, right? And we criticize ourselves when these things happen. Do you think in some ways people are under preparing themselves for the realities of nature, the world, and what could be coming by not allowing themselves to understand the true intentions of man and nature, which is the balance between good and bad?
It is probable, yes. I think that a lot of the energies that we have here right now, the middle path is probably one of the better paths to walk, because you will be hit with lots of temptations, lots of different individuals that will be vibrating both negatively and positively. There are those out there at the moment that have a good cross section of duality. So they have a dual aspect within their own frequencies happening. And I see this in the auras of a lot of individuals where they've had to, out of necessity, they've had to embrace both their dark side and their light side. And it is an everyday, daily, every 24 hours, They are fighting within themselves to do what they feel is right or do what they can to the best of their abilities. It is a very difficult path, and this is why we are here, is to learn how to deal with that very difficult path. I mean, there might be, a mother that is having to go out to work because she has to put food on the table, but also at the same time is beating herself up because she's not able to spend the precious time that she needs to with her children because she has to put food on the table or she has to pay the rent. And this is the type of fight that individual will have. It is for her, you can't just follow nature and nurture your babies, because you have to be part of this world and you have to pay your rent and you have to put food on the table. And for other individuals, there's going to be other very real issues, which might not seem much for some individuals, but for those that are going through it, are going to be significant. They're going to feel it. They are. So the middle path, I think, is where we're going to find the most wins, is if you can just try to stay on the middle path, not veering to the dark, not veering too much to the light.
The balance.
Then we will be able to get through this, because it is a very difficult path. And those who've chosen to come here and to be part of Earth School and start learning their soul lessons and clear their soul contracts, there's not one that I've spoken to that says, oh, it's a great planet, I like being here. Every single person I speak to has said, oh, for goodness sake, let me finish these soul contracts. I've had just about enough of this place, mate. I want to be off here. Stop the world, let me get off. And that's more or less where most people are at right now.
Yeah. And let's be honest, if you're pulling somebody out of the true black, the gray is pretty damn light compared to the true black, so it's really, please don't get this twisted. This isn't about trying to tell you all that good people do good things, okay? And sometimes good people make bad decisions. It's all about your intentions. And I know a lot of people that have fallen into bad circumstances through no intention of their own. And people get weighed down a lot by these things, these moments in life, Bev. And you really have to learn to forgive and love yourself. You really have to be able to adore yourself. And for a lot of that, for people, it's difficult. It's difficult.
And that's the biggest, and therein lies the rub. Exactly what you've just said is, you've got to learn to love yourself. And that is the first aspect. Most people, when I ask them the question, I ask you to write down 4 or 5 things that you really love, do you know how many of them don't actually put themselves at the top of the list? Pretty much all of them. They just don't.
Right.
So we are harder on ourselves. We beat ourselves up every single day. Whereas if we could accept our faults, accept our foibles, accept the fact that, we are human and occasionally we make some pretty awful decisions, which we're going to have to stand by, because that decision in itself pushes that path in a different direction. But if we can start accepting ourselves, and if we can try, if we can, to put ourselves at the top of the list. So when you're asked, write a list of 5 things or people that you love the most. Please at least be, even if you're just number 5, that's still an improvement.
Yeah. Just want to say a big shout out to you, Kiwi, in the side chat. I'm really sorry for your loss. That's our brother passed away of a heart attack. I just wanted to acknowledge that. But everything that you're saying, Bev, is right on. And I'm interviewing a guy on Friday called Jax the Ripper, right?
Oh,
and
Lord.
he is a Instagram author, Instagram content creator, TikToker, and author. But he is 100% self-proclaimed in the dark side. He considers himself a psychopath. All of his content is him putting into words or into creation his self-proclaimed want to hold back his want to unalive people. And it's going to be a very interesting conversation, I believe, because people need to understand, when we're dealing with lack of empathy, a lot of people have never had to look at it and stare it in the face before. And I think it's important that you realize the difference between someone who is fully in the light, someone who is in the gray, and someone who is, I mean, he's an author. Okay. He blurs the line between fantasy and marketing and reality. And there's a lot of stuff online about this guy. It's going to be an interesting conversation. But to look at the guy, he certainly looks like the sort of person that you would categorize as walking in the very much dark side of what we're talking about here. And sometimes we have to ask the questions to these individuals to learn more about just how far from them we are, because we self-criticize so much. Oh, I'm so horrible. Oh, I'm this, I'm that. Well, you're going to see, and then you can set a new bar for yourself for where you hold yourself accountable for these heinous things that are just normal human process. You know, that's why that interview's happening. It's going to be awesome. Now, listen, Bev, we're going to just turn the table a little bit here, right? You have been out doing some investigations into some cryptid little scallywags. Now, what's the correct term?
Our favorite topic. We love our cryptids, don't we?
We do. Yeah, we do really love them. And we've got a video here, and we've got some photos and things like this. But take us through exactly what we're about to see. Like, set the stage, because obviously Hollywood's kind of ruined a lot of things where we want to see. We want to see. We want to see things in 4K ultra high definition, but it's just not how the world. Listen, see if these creatures, right, were just standing the way you and I were standing, they wouldn't be mythological. Okay, they would just be standing about. I'm going to go, oh, there's one over there. Okay, so trust me, scientists are coming up with how different animals can see different light spectrums that see things that aren't there. That is science, right? That is proven. Okay, so we're going to put aside our dumbass, narrow-minded thinking here, and we're going to delve into the realities of, you know, the people, like the first, the first people. What's the
First Nation? First Nation. Yeah, American First Nation.
Okay. Yeah. Bev and I were talking about this beforehand, right? When the white man came to America and just went, let's just commit some atrocities, right? The elders, the people with all the knowledge, they're the ones that are getting taken out first. Like the generals, right? Those are the ones that are getting taken out first. And I was saying to Bev, I would imagine even back then there was a hierarchy to knowledge, Beverly, to knowledge. And we could argue that with such a devastating loss of numbers, like a large portion of this knowledge just dies, right? And it happens in all cultures when one culture is overrun, or there's, you know, somebody gives somebody else a bunch of blankets with some germs on it, and, you know, a whole bunch of people die. Okay, there's a lot of it that I imagine America would be a very different place if old Columbus had left from the other side and just went round the world the other way. Do you know what I mean? Also, fun fact, that is why, like, Columbus was looking for India. You know, you all know that, right? And that's why Indians got called, like, the first. What the heck? I forgot that again. First Nation people referred to as Indians, right? And obviously we don't say that now, but that's the reason why, because Columbus was he got there and he went, ha! India! Oh, shit, we're here. Turns out we can just nip across this way. No, Chris. No, mate. No. Sorry, pal. But that's just a little fun fact for everybody. So their knowledge, right? I mean, it would be a very different America. I mean, the redwoods, there'd be so much that would be different. But we could say that about anywhere, but specifically with the First Nation and what's going on here. Take us through it all, Bev. Take your time and truly let us know the connection that lost, I mean, wiped out, and you know, whatever civilizations hold over modern cultures. Jeez.
Well, the first thing is that, you know, a lot of the First Nation that I've been speaking to over the last sort of 10 years of research and meeting with different tribes, and I've met with loads of tribes, and particularly a lot that have explained all sorts of things to me, things that I wasn't aware of initially, but they have been very gracious and they have shared their knowledge. So we have a lot that is known within the First Nation peoples that They don't necessarily talk to or share that widely. So some of the aspects that we're seeing and feeling now with some of the various nations is sacred knowledge. And they are fully aware of the star brothers and sisters. They're very aware that, you know, there are those that came from the stars, and any of the nations that you speak to, sometimes if you ask quietly and you appreciate and are respectful to their particular culture, because one thing that I have noticed is that most of the nations have been able to retain and keep their knowledge and keep their ways alive, which I think is amazing. Because when I lived in South Africa, a lot of the different nations, and there are lots, there's, I mean, 15, 16 different types of tribes that have their own language. I mean, I've seen when, you know, I was in America, and the footage that you're about to see is that I had gone with one of the tribeswomen specifically to go and say goodbye, because I knew that they were there. You can feel that there are eyes watching you from the swamp. And I'd gone to give offerings, which I did through the particular tribe, which was the Muskogee tribe of Florida, Muskogee Nation, actually, of Florida. And I'd asked, would you mind, you know, taking me to the space in the swamp that you know they are, where there is this, the stargate that they move through, the portal in and out. Would you mind taking me on my last day so that I can at least leave some offerings and say goodbye to them, and see if at least one or two or more come and at least leave either a message, or alternatively, when we knock on the trees, which is this is the easiest way of communicating, and also talking in your mind, because they are telepathic, is saying in my mind. And when I was at the swamp, what I was saying in my mind all the time was, I bid you farewell, I say goodbye to you, I thank you, and I will be back at some point, and I will come and visit you again, but thank you so much. I could feel your presence, and I understand if you know, if I never get to see you, that's fine, but I'm just coming to say goodbye. And that is the intention that I went to the swamp to say goodbye to them, because I had, obviously my flight was the next day and I had to leave. And that's the context of this footage. Now, I did get a bit of a fright, because there was a stone that was thrown into the swamp behind me, and I nearly dropped my phone. But luckily I managed to get myself together, and then saw one of these amazing beings standing behind the tree. And that's right towards the end of the video. But you will see that the tribeswoman, her name is Aquana, and she was using another big stick that she picked up in the swamp to bang on this, quite hard actually, on the side of these amazing trees that grow in the swamp. And you can hear it banging. And then what happens is, later in the video you will hear that there is a return call and a return knocking on the tree. So that becomes very obvious. And that is in the footage as well.
Well, let's take a little look at it. Let's
Yeah.
let's delve into this. Now, hang on a second. I push this button, and then we can watch. Everyone gets it full screen. Make sure all the volumes. All right, let's have a look at this. And Bev, feel free to. Shall we play it through fully, and then we'll play it through again and stop it, and you can talk us through a little bit,
of course.
just to sort of go through it all. I think that would be a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Shit. It was behind this area. Oh my God. Yeah. They've thrown something. They've definitely thrown something, but I don't know what it was, but it was behind me. Oh man.
So here I'm panning and looking. I'm looking. I can hear the knocking coming from there. Is an island in the middle of the swamp.
Oh, hello. Oh,
And then we had bats as well. There was bats
Back
flying.
there.
But there is that section there is where we
think you
thought
see
that
where
it's
that
coming from.
formation is over there. I think it was coming from that area,
Yeah.
and it went plop
Yeah,
from that side.
it did. That was cool.
That was. Well, we've come to say goodbye. I've got to go home. Come and see you again next year. I can't seem to see it though. What the hell was that?
That was a bad.
Was it a bat? I thought it was a bat, but yeah, they're very good though.
Yeah.
Well,
That's cool.
bye guys.
All right, let's get in for the
Let's
gators.
get in
now.
for
Yeah,
the
that
gators
looked like
out.
the back of something walking away.
Mm.
Was it
Yeah,
a
it
bat? I
was.
thought it was a bat, but yeah, they're very good though.
Do you know what I mean? Like a butt cheek.
Yeah, or something similar. Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
So
cool.
you can't see the
Bye,
distances
guys.
there.
All right, let's get in. For
But
the
I
gators
was-
in
now.
for the gators get out. Okay.
Well, yeah, I was on the what do you call it? It's not a shoreline, but where the swamp is, there's like a small sort of sandy area that you can stand on, that as close to the water as possible. And I was standing there, and Aquana had gone to that really huge, beautiful, huge tree. She was quite far away, and she'd been knocking a particular message. But then I turned around, and I was looking further downstream, and as I was basically turned away, there was this splosh, which is why I nearly dropped my phone.
Yeah.
And I heard the splosh behind me. I thought, oh my agony aunt, it's right behind me. And I turned, that's why I apologize, the camera, I couldn't get it quick enough. But she was the other one, the one that comes to pick up the offerings. She was standing just behind the tree, but you could hear her knocking the tree back, which is the easiest way of communicating. And this particular being has been in communication with the tribe, with the Muskogee tribe of nation of Florida. They've been in communication with them for centuries now.
Mhm.
And since then I've spoken to a lot of the other tribal members, and I think that most of the tribal members have said, yeah, they're aware of them, they've seen them, they appear and then they disappear. They disappear literally in front of you, completely disappear. So it was a very, very special time.
Yeah.
To be able to be there, to go and say goodbye and leave offerings of flowers and sweets and, other cookies and things like that. So those trees are ginormous. They're huge. I mean, I've never seen trees so big in my life.
Mhm.
And then you've got all the roots as well that you have to be very careful.
Yeah.
They're called, I think they're called knees. Not sure. Might be called knees. But you've got to be careful you don't fall over those. And that's what, when I whipped around and turned around, I was like, oh my goodness, what on earth is that? That's why the camera went all over the place. But you can see that the water's not running very fast. And there's that little bit of sand on the side. That was where I was standing. But if you move too quickly, there's a lot of debris and there's lots of bits of trees. And there's the roots coming up and things like that. But yeah, she was definitely on the middle island, on that section, that middle island in the middle. And it was really exciting. And then by the time we moved from that area and went back to where the offerings had gone.
Yeah, and it's just amazing, like the subtleties of these realms, worlds, all the stuff that we don't think we don't understand. Is there a correlation between the footage where people have seen solid, full forms of Bigfoot? I often feel like it scares most people off it doesn't seem like it's done to be like, hey, come and find out more about us. It's like, hey, stay away. That's the vibe I get when they're showing themselves. Like, what, when you speak to the First Nation people and the relationship that exists, do they ever speak of the history and how the two came to be working together?
I think that some of the footage that's out there, you will notice that neither Okwana or I, neither of us had any weapons on us. We had gone specifically with the purpose and intention to say goodbye and put offerings. Some of the footage that's out there, they are hunter type people, and they are armed to the teeth. And neither of us carried anything or no weapons on us at all. And we had already given our intention the moment that we had walked into that area. We had said straight away, I'm coming to say goodbye. I need to return back to the UK. And that was exactly what it was. There was nothing like that. Some of the First Nations, they have said that they treat them as beings that they work with, and that they treat them as brothers and sisters. So yes, in a way it is a different way of communing with a different type of being. That's all it is. And they do have a very peaceful way, particularly between the Florida type of I think it's in legend it's down as a skunk ape, but I think that's a Western white person's view. All of the nations, from what I understand, they all have their own words in their own cultural languages. So in Creek or in Muskogee or any of the languages there, they actually do have a word which is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years old. So that tells me, just by the fact that these tribal individuals and the elders have a name for them, it means that the tribes through the centuries are used to communing with these special beings that have come from a different planet. And the other thing I will mention is that I wasn't aware, and I hadn't personally felt a portal or a shift in time until this particular event. And I was quite surprised because I didn't expect it to take this form. But going down to the swamp, instead of just taking 10 minutes of a drive, it takes a long time. So what I did is I filmed the drive down, because the tribal individuals had said to me, you'll be surprised going into the swamp to commune with the Alawan, with these special beings. It's going to take you a long time. And I didn't understand what that was meant at the time until I experienced it. So what should be a 9-minute drive ended up being like 20, 30 minutes. And I was like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? I was like one of those petulant children in the backseat. Oh, have we got there? Have we got there? Are we there yet? Are we? No, wait. And you can feel that things are very odd, and you just keep driving and keep driving. I think, good Lord, how far away is the swamp place? But actually it's not, because going in, you enter into that portal side, and there's that shift. And I didn't appreciate it until we turned around and started driving out. We did it in less than 9 minutes. And I said, hang on a minute, was that the same road? Yes, it was the same road. I'm thinking, no, it can't be the same road. But it was the same road. So it is a known place. And when you look at and speak to other individuals, they will say, there is a known Stargate in a place called Ponce de Leon, which is in Walton County, and that is near where the swamp is. So for a fact that swamp and that particular gate, that is definitely what the Alawan are using to move in and out of. But if you go there peacefully, and you go there to commune with them, and you go to give offerings and then leave peacefully, then there won't be any issue.
Well, let's hope that with the continued abuse that this planet takes, that they keep their civility with us all. But Bev, honestly, it's been a great chat this evening. I am starving. Right, one of the mods messaged me and was like, you know, I've never seen you trip over your words like that. I'm like, I'm starving. Okay, like
Oh.
I've had to actually adjust the noise gate because of my stomach rumbling.
Oh, goodness.
We're going to have to leave it there for tonight because I am
That's fine.
so hungry. But listen, everyone, make sure you follow Beverli. We'll be back next week. We've got a lot planned for this show. We want to delve into a lot of the realms in which people can progress through their own journey and sort of putting forward some of the things that Bev and I both know and have discovered on ours. And I just want to thank you, Bev, and thank the mods, and thank everybody out there for watching. And we'll see you all in the next one. And I'm back tomorrow. And Bev, what have you got coming up?
I'm going to be writing a bit more about the vampire book, because you know I'm busy with the Vampire Nanny at the moment, because we went to we did a recce out at New Orleans to go and see, and we did come across one very strange female vampire, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah, we'll delve into a bunch of stuff. So, Bev, thank you to everybody out there. I'm going to go and destroy a gammon like it is like needing put out of its misery. So, thank you all. We'll see you in the next one, and peace.